He spent 10 years behind bars for a crime he never committed. Each night, he counted seconds instead of stars. And with every dawn, he swore he'd never forgive. But life has its own way of returning what we bury. The man who ruined his life would one day need the mercy of the one he broke. The monk did not need to see it coming. He already knew. This would be the day forgiveness was tested. The cell was small, but the silence was larger. Ethan had learned to count time by the sound of dripping water. Not days, not weeks, just drops. Each one fell like a verdict that never changed. He was 38 now, but his eyes carried the years he lost behind walls built from lies. They said he'd betrayed a friend, signed a false confession, but the truth had no lawyer that day. Every morning began the same. Metal doors, shouted orders, eyes that never met kindness. And then there was Miller, the guard with a stare like cold iron and a heart rusted by too many years of power. He watched Ethan like a hunter watches something that doesn't fight back. "Still pretending to be innocent?" Miller would sneer, his voice dripping with the comfort of authority. Ethan never answered. He just kept his hands steady, his eyes down, as if silence itself were his final defense. Sometimes Miller would shove him without reason. Sometimes he'd make him scrub the same floor twice. But what angered him most was that Ethan never cursed back. Behind that quiet, Miller saw something he couldn't name. Something like peace, something like defiance, and it terrified him. That night, while Miller patrolled the hallway, he stopped by Ethan's cell. "Why don't you ever fight back?" he asked through the bars. Ethan lifted his gaze for the first time in years. "Because I already did," he said quietly, "and I lost." For a moment, even the rain outside stopped listening. The papers came on a grey morning, stamped, signed, and meaningless. After 10 years, the system that broke him had decided to say sorry without using the word. Ethan stood at the gate, holding a plastic bag, a few clothes, a Bible he never opened, and time he could never get back. No family waited, no friends, just wind, dust, and the echo of a life paused too long. He stepped outside. Freedom tasted like iron and rain. He looked up at the sky, the same one he'd prayed to behind bars, and felt nothing. Every step away from the prison felt like walking without gravity. The world had moved on. He was the only thing still standing still. A truck passed on the distant road, splashing muddy water across his jeans. He didn't curse. He didn't care. He just kept walking. Some destinies don't begin with words. They begin in silence. The road was empty for miles. Ethan walked until his legs burned and his mind went numb. A storm was coming, dark clouds crawling over the horizon like a slow tide. He stopped by a half-broken fence, resting his hands on the wet wood. That's when he heard it. Not a voice, not a sound, just presence. An old man stood down the road, his robe blue as twilight, his eyes calm, as if the world were still asleep. He carried nothing. He didn't walk toward Ethan. He simply was there. Ethan frowned. "Road's closed ahead," he said. The man nodded slowly. "Most roads are." Ethan sighed. "You lost, old man?" "No," said the monk. "Just waiting for someone who is." Ethan hesitated. "You know me." The monk smiled faintly. "Enough to know you haven't forgiven your freedom yet." "You talk like a preacher." "No," the monk replied. "Preachers talk about heaven. I talk about the weight you carry when you think you're free." He stepped closer, his voice soft but heavy. "Freedom means nothing if your heart still obeys the past." Ethan looked away, rain gathering in his lashes. "I didn't ask for your wisdom." The monk nodded gently. "No one ever does. That's why it matters." They walked together in silence as the rain thickened. Two strangers, one tired of living, one too wise to explain why they met. Then came the sound of tires screaming through the storm. A car spun out of control ahead, crashing down into the ditch. Ethan ran toward it, the monk behind him, steady and calm. The car lay upside down, flames licking its side. Ethan pulled at the door, shouting, "Hang on!" The frame bent, groaned, and gave way. Inside was a face he knew too well. Miller. For a moment, everything inside Ethan froze. The storm roared, but all he heard was the echo of metal doors closing, the sound of boots pacing past his cell. The man who stole 10 years from him was now inches from death, asking for help without words. Miller's eyes met his, first with shock, then recognition, then fear. "Ethan," Miller rasped, coughing through smoke. I didn't know. They told me." Ethan's hands trembled. He could walk away. He could let fate balance its own scales. But the monk's voice cut through the thunder. Life always brings us back to what we refuse to face. Ethan pressed his shoulder against the door. Metal screeched. Fire hissed. He pulled until his muscles burned, until Miller's body fell free from the wreck. The rain swallowed the flames, leaving only steam and silence. Ethan sat beside the man who once called him filth. Both of them were shaking, both alive. The fire was gone. Only the smell of smoke and wet earth remained. Ethan knelt beside Miller, who coughed weakly, clutching his side. The man who once held the keys to his cell now trembled like a child. Ethan's hands hovered, unsure if they wanted to help or to let go. The monk stood nearby, calm, watching the sky clear. "You've already done what justice never could," he said softly. "Now, what will you do with the rest of yourself?" Ethan didn't look back. "He doesn't deserve it." The monk's tone was steady. "No one deserves mercy. That's what makes it mercy. He ruined my life." "And yet," said the monk, "you just saved his." Texto pay, the monk's eyes lowered, his voice deep as thunder fading. "Hate is just pain that forgot its name." Ethan looked down at his hands, stained with oil, blood, and history. "Then what am I supposed to do with it?" "Mercy doesn't erase the past," said the monk. "It rewrites the ending." For the first time, Ethan met the monk's gaze, calm meeting storm. And something inside him broke, and something greater began. Drow. Miller sat against the wreck, his voice shaking. "I ruined your life. You should have let me die." Ethan looked at him, and for the first time he didn't see a guard, a liar, or an enemy. He saw a man drowning in his own mistakes. The monk stood beside him, silent. The truth was already in Ethan's hands. Ethan reached down and took Miller's arm, helping him to his feet. Miller's knees buckled, tears cutting through the dirt on his face. "Why?" he asked. Ethan's voice was low, steady. "Because I don't want to be you." The monk placed a hand on Ethan's shoulder. Forgiveness isn't freedom for them. It's freedom from them. A faint light broke through the clouds, spilling gold across the wet road. Ethan closed his eyes and breathed, not to forget, but to finally let go. When he opened them, the monk was still there, not as a vision, not as a mystery, but as a man walking beside him, both of them moving toward the horizon, quiet and free. When you forgive the one who broke you, you stop being what they made you. He lost years to lies but found freedom in mercy. How many of us are still prisoners of the past? If this story moved you, don't let it stop here. Like, share and subscribe, and leave your comment below. Because somewhere out there, someone needs to hear the prisoner who saved a guard.